I'll give you some background first of all on Spotlight. So we exist. We started January last year. About 5 weeks after we started, we already had I think Nestle was already became a paying customer, and we have hundreds of brands today that we serve, and we help them appear on AI and or AI search. And things change a lot in the last year, in the last month, even the last 5 days, even. I mean, things change all the time. So it's a very dynamic and interesting time, and the technology has been responsive to all the changes. And I'll talk about some of the changes and things that are happening in the last few days. It's really interesting, and how we can respond to everything. But this playbook works, and we're going to start with an overview of where we're at today in terms of which models we want to optimize for. So as you know, Google, you have Google AI Overviews, which rolled out to all the world now. When people search on Google, about 60-70% of the queries, you get an AI overview. You get an AI generated response in the top above the links. 68% of the people, this is the data from a few weeks ago, 68 of the people that get a response, an AI overview, they don't even scroll down or click any of the links. They simply, they get the response, and they're happy with that, and they move on. So even if you're not targeting, if you're not optimizing for AI today, people who are searching the web are actually already using AI effectively, even if they're not going to Gemini or ChatGPT.com. So ChatGPT is number 2 with about a billion users. So Google AI Overviews, just to finish that thought, Google has about 5 to 6 billion active monthly users, and about 2 billion of them see an AI overview response. So that's your highest, the most important model today that you want to optimize for. Second is ChatGPT with about 1 billion monthly active users, Gemini 650 million, Google AI mode, and you see the rest. And you might say that, hey, Google AI Overviews, Gemini, and Google AI mode are all Google. Yes, and they're all based on Gemini family of models, but they each yield different responses. They have different instructions that kind of guide them. They pull different data, and I'll show you this in a moment. So they're actually, you have to optimize for them separately. But our playbook kind of optimizes for them all at once, and I'll show you how it works. High level, just recent research data. Just to share with you, off the bat. This is from just recently. We see a jump in YouTube citations. I'm going to show you actual data in a moment. LinkedIn has just jumped also about in the last 3-4 months. We saw it jumping up 4 or 5 times more. ChatGPT has been citing LinkedIn quite a bit, between 0.5% to 1% of all of its citations. Reddit really went down. It was 14.5% of all citations were from Reddit in mid-September or early September, September 10th. By September 16th, we saw Reddit jumping down to about 0.5% of the citations. So it's still a big player, but not as big as it used to be, and the hype around it is not, relevant today. And whoever heard about LMTXT file, don't worry about that file. That file, no model actually uses it. That file is, if you didn't hear about it, it talks about, it was an idea that was suggested by somebody at Anthropic, that every website will have this file in its root folder, and it will describe to the models what's inside the website. But no model actually reads it, so it doesn't really take any effect. So it really doesn't matter. So you don't have to care about that file at the moment. So here's a little a dive into data. I just pulled this just half an hour ago for the call here for the webinar. So you have fresh data. This is data from the last 30 days based on the 5.8 million citations that we pulled from our system. I checked to see which are the top domains. So ChatGPT is looking at Wikipedia, Reddit, LinkedIn are the top 3. Google AI Overviews, this is huge. 3%, over 3% of all the citations that Google AI Overviews provided were actually from YouTube, which is crazy. And we have some insight on how to actually make YouTube videos that will convert, and we'll talk about that later. Reddit is pretty big for Google for AI Overviews, and then Facebook, the public Facebook posts. Apparently that's a thing, or public groups. That's apparently a thing. I actually wasn't aware of that before I saw the stat a few months ago. And LinkedIn articles, LinkedIn pulses. And then Gemini is also pretty big on Reddit, relatively. YouTube and Wikipedia. So these are the top domains. If you kind of filter out a specific domains, or if you look at more general kind of domains, but when you look at this and you say, All right, well, okay, but then here this adds up to maybe like, maybe 5-6%, or this adds up to maybe like 2-3%. Where's all the rest? Where's the 90-95% of the citations coming from? And that's actually where all the meat is. And that really depends on your own brand. And I'm going to show you an example of where all those citations are and how we're going to affect them and how we become those citations. So let's now jump into practical. How does this all work? So this is really like that. In order to understand AI search and to make your way into AI search or into the responses, you have to fully understand, first of all, how the models actually work. So when you go on ChatGPT or any model, but for example, ChatGPT, and you type in a prompt, for example, what are the best noise canceling headphones under $50? So what ChatGPT does, and all the models do, they go out and search the web. They search the web for fresh data. Now, they don't always do this actually. When they think that their training set, the data that they were trained on is sufficient to respond to the user, they will respond out of their training set. Most models. Perplexity will always search the web, and so will Google, because it's kind of like integrated with search results. But generally, the models are trained. When they're trained over a course of months, they get their basic knowledge and mostly their intelligence. And when they determine that a prompt is best answered using fresh data, they'll go out and search the web. They're going to search Google and Bing. Now, when they search the web, what they do in the back end, they actually create their own keywords, search terms. So, for example, for this real prompt that I ran a couple months ago, ChatGPT then created these two search terms and ran them on Google and Bing, mostly Google actually. Although officially it's Bing, we can see that's actually Google. So they're actually going and running these searches on Google, and they're running them from the local market, from the local country. So if I'm sitting in the UK, then it's going to run it from Google UK. If I'm in Israel, Google Israel. It's going to run it locally and get local results, which mean a lot. Now, it's going to run this is called a query fanout. If you heard the term, it means that the user makes a prompt, and then the model breaks it into search queries to search for content or for data in order to respond to the user from regular Google and Bing search. So the model then has search results. It sees 20 to 30 search results for every keyword that it enters. Now, it doesn't see the interface like we see it here. It actually goes to the Bing and Google API, and it gets from there 20 to 30 results. But it gets the same kind of data. What it sees is the next four factors. It sees the title. It sees the domain of the website. It sees the date when it was last modified, and a snippet, a little summary of what's inside the website. And based on those four factors, it'll then select, out of the 20 to 30 results, it'll select which websites it wants to click in through and actually read out and make part of or the basis of its response to the user. Now, when it selects the websites, they end up as citations. Now, not citations don't actually mean necessarily that you'll end up in the response, but this is the prerequisite to end up into a response, and we'll talk about that soon. So, on average, ChatGPT, for example, cites 25 links. Grok cites many more, and other players cite much less. But let's talk about ChatGPT for a minute. ChatGPT, on average, also runs 2 data searches on Google. And what that means, actually, that ChatGPT considers, on average, 50 search results and cites 25 of them. That means that you have a 50% chance of getting cited if you are in those search results, meaning if you know how ChatGPT is searching for content. So in order to get cited, you want to make sure that your content is optimized for the model's search terms. And you also want to know how they actually select the content among the different results. So how do we know what the search terms are? So we have a technology, and it's actually, we have a free Chrome extension that does this, but it's currently not working because they just changed something. We have to fix it, but soon it'll work again. We have a way to actually to pull out those search terms, those search queries from ChatGPT and see exactly how it's searching the web. And then we take that, and then we also look at all of the citations, all of the data sources that were cited, and we analyze them. We reverse engineer them to try to understand what actually made them get cited. So we look at many properties for every piece of content that was cited. We look at what the title was. We generate a summary of the content. We look to see what were the keywords, what was the tone of voice. We check to see, well, what's the depth of the content? When was it last updated? Does it have any author credentials? We check to see how many words, images, videos it had. Did it have an FAQ section? Does it have any visual data? Did it have any, what's the hierarchy of the text, the H1, H2s? What kind of schema types did it have? We check to see what kind of links it had. So we look at everything, every possible property of these data sources to try to understand how we can now create content that will also get cited. And then our system, we have a content creator that actually takes all those properties that run daily. Every day we run hundreds of thousands of prompts to and then analyze this data. So then we take those properties, and then the system automatically creates content that has all those properties so that we know that are very highly likely going to get cited. And it's super effective. I'm going to show you that in the example. I'm going to get into the demo. Now, being cited doesn't mean necessarily that you're mentioned. You could get cited, but you might not get mentioned. So the content that you create, so first of all, you want to get cited, either your content or you want to appear in content that's cited. So first of all, you want to be cited, but then you also want that content that's cited to have all the trust factors, all the integrity factors that the models look for in order to say, hey, this is worth actually writing about, not just citing. I want to actually write about this. So you also want to have those factors inside the content that you write. So we said, in order to get mentioned, you want to get cited, either your content or a content that mentions you, and you want to have some kind of a mention-worthy content. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. And I'll show you an example. So we said, all right, so let's kind of like a recap. So we said that once we have a user prompt, we find out what the queries that the models use to search the web. And we analyze the data sources to try to understand what's an ideal piece of content that the models will want to pick up and cite, and then also mention the content from there. And based on this analysis, we can create precise content that will get cited. We have 90% success of content we create that gets cited within a day or two. But then you might ask, all right, but what are the user prompts that I should be actually optimizing for? What are people actually asking for? So this brings us to prompt volume. And this is a topic that I spent months working on. Nobody knows what people are actually looking for on ChatGPT and all the models. The models themselves know. I mean, ChatGPT knows, Google knows, but they don't share this information. Actually, Claude just released Bing on the Bing webmaster tools. They just released a feature about 2 weeks ago that show you what people are searching for, or what they searched on Copilot in order to find your website. It's very specific and very kind of like local, but it's cool. It's a cool insight to kind of look at if you're into like data and SEO. But generally we don't know what people are looking for. So how do we find out what people are looking for? So what we did, we built a really complex system that's based on 3 main data sources. One is a real-time user panel. We buy access to millions of daily prompts that people actually run on their browsers with the different models. Think like SimilarWeb. We essentially see how people are engaging with the models. They give their consent to do this. The problem with that is that the statistical significance or the coverage around all the geographies and demographics that we want is not there. So it's a good data point, but it's not enough. So we use that as only one data point. Then we have another data point, which is the Google ecosystem. So people are starting to use Google search. They're actually starting to type prompts into Google search instead of keywords, because they know that AI Overview is going to respond. And so we're picking that up. We're getting that from from all kinds of Google Trends and Google Search Volume. We get that from APIs that we have within the Google ecosystem. And if you, by the way, go to your Google Search Console, you will see actual prompts that brought users to your website. A third data point is models that we found that have been trained on interactions between humans and older models. So these models actually saw prompts. They're trained on prompts that were performed a few months ago. They're outdated, but it's another really good data point that we use. So based on these 3, we're then able to come out and say, all right, this is what people are actually asking for. Is it precise 100%? No. It's about 85-90% accuracy. And it's based on data from the local country in the last 2 months. But that's great. I mean, it's way better than anything else that we had until now. So we use that to help prioritize the prompts that we want to optimize for. So the playbook is pretty much split into like 3 different sections. We have a section where we talk about the content. which are owned content, or on-site content or owned content. We have third-party or off-site content, and we have the GEO and SEO fundamentals. The owned content, the strategy there really is to identify, first of all, what are the prompts that people are using in order to find a business like mine or service like mine. And then we want to optimize for them. And then we discover how the models search for content on the web when they want to respond to these prompts. And then we analyze the data sources to try to understand what's the profile of these data sources that are getting cited. How do we also get cited? And then we create optimized content that's based on that insight. The second approach is to find websites that are currently influencing the models, that are being cited very often by the models that we don't own. And then we try to get our content onto those websites. It could be by asking them, exchanging mentions. It could be by pinging them. Or it could be maybe writing a guest blog. So that's the second approach, and I'll show you how we do that in practice. And the third thing is the fundamentals. You want to before you actually start writing or putting a content on your own blog, you want to make sure you have the technical SEO down. It talks about models being able to access your content, not blocking them, or the content being HTML ready, no JavaScript, so that they can actually read the content. Or there's a bunch of factors that I'll share with you. I just wrote a blog post on that on our blog with all the factors that you want to look at. Or you want your content to be fresh content. Models like fresh content. You want your entity to appear at all kinds of places like LinkedIn and social media and maybe Wikipedia, so that you actually seem like a brand that's worth mentioning. So now I'm going to jump into a practical demo. Show you an example from an actual account, an account that is actually not a paying customer. So that's why I'm fine with showing this data. This is Nespresso. So essentially, all that theory, and I'll show you how it actually works in practice. And you can do a lot of this on your own without Spotlight for free. But with Spotlight, it's just way more easy and practical. So I'm going to show you the whole idea. So essentially, what we do, the first thing we do, the system automatically does, it actually goes out and creates topics that the brand probably cares about and wants to appear in. And then it goes out and finds prompts that the brand would want to appear in the response. So for example, let's say under the gourmet coffee solutions, let's say, how can I create cafe-style beverages at home easily? So Nespresso would want to appear in the response here. So what we do, after we identify these prompts and also their volume, how often people are actually searching for these prompts, we then send the prompts to all of the models that we care about. So we support all the major models. So let's say, for example, ChatGPT here. So we send the prompt to ChatGPT and we look at the response. And we see, and then the system checks to see which brands appeared in the response. And it found that Espresso appeared. It appeared third out of 5 brands that were mentioned. And we measure the sentiment, analyze the sentiment around the mentioning of the brand. And here we found that it was positive. And in this case, it actually answered out of its general knowledge. But here you can see an example where it answered and actually searched the web. And it looked, and we can see the citations and where the data actually came from. So we actually do this. And if you actually look, let me give you an example here where we can actually see here, for example, we can find also how the model actually, ChatGPT searched the web. So these are the actual search queries that ChatGPT used in order to search for these data sources. And this is really valuable. And I'm going to show you how we're going to use it. But overall, so we have, for every topic that we care about, we will see what our presence is. So overall presence among the responses, and where we ranked, what the position of our brand was within those responses. So here on average, we're about second place in the responses. The sentiment around the mentioning of the brand, and which other brands appeared in the responses. And we see this data over time, every week, which we found is the ideal frequency to check this. And then the user, the first time the user sets up the topics that they care about, and they add and remove prompts as to align them with what they really care about in terms of their marketing objectives. And then this report runs. And then you see the data. Every week you can see, for every topic, how you're performing, and also you can slice the data per model. So for example, let's look at AI Overview and ChatGPT. So they're doing a little bit less, not as well as they're doing on the average. Probably Gemini, they're doing pretty well. So you can see how we're doing per model and per topic. And also, you can see all the data in the eyes of a different brand. For example, they can take another brand that might be a competitor or just another brand and see how they're performing on the same responses per topic and per model. So this gives you like insight on also on how your brand is doing. Also how your competitors are performing. And then we take this data and we analyze it in all kinds of ways. So we give you an idea of kind of like for every customer journey stage, for example, prompts that are written typically in the awareness stage or consideration stage or decision stage will show you the presence of the brand in each one of these stages. Or what's the sentiment around the mentioning of the brand for each stage. Or for every stage, which other brands are showing up. Or we can see all kinds of how the competitive landscape looks like. How are we versus our competitors with all kinds of different metrics. And so at the end of the day, you actually get this report that shows you every week how the brand shows up and on each one of the models. And since they're not a paying customer, you can see that it's a flat line. It's not going up. Our paying customers, they go up. So you can see for every model how we're showing up, how we're doing, and you can see also, for example, the sentiment, our health of the perception. So let's talk about that for a second. The perception is a whole different section, a whole different kind of like thing that we check. This is not checking whether we appear on AI, but it checks how do we show up? What's our reputation on AI? What's AI saying about our brand? So here we have all kinds of questions that brand managers, PR people, CMOs typically like to see, and they might ask. For example, if we ask it AI, how is Nespresso perceived in terms of quality of its coffee and coffee machines, we'll send that prompt to all the models and see how they respond. And then and we'll look at the response and we'll see the data sources, and the system will then go and score the response. It'll also explain why it scored it the way it scored it. So then it's going to give you like an overview idea for every property that you care about your own reputation. It'll send it to all the models and then score the responses and tell you how you're doing. So you can add these other more like prompts like this, like branded prompts, and even tell the system what you consider a good or a bad response, so it knows how to score it. And then you can track that over time, so you have an idea of how well you're doing, how well you're performing in terms of your reputation. And then also the system has tools to kind of like show you where the models are going for the responses. So for example, Reddit, you can see here that Reddit here, there's 3 responses, actually went to a certain Reddit post and then asked got information there about how Nespresso is. So, and you can also filter this by model and by different properties. So let's go back over here. Just so we have this weekly kind of like report of how we're doing in terms of like the brand reputation and our presence, and then we have these action items that every week you'll have these action items that they'll help you improve the presence. Now, how do they work? There are 3 kind of plays here. One is creating content. This is the on-site content, or not necessarily on-site, but content that you own. And what this does is really intelligent. So what it does, it finds the prompts that are worth optimizing for. And here, for example, let's say, what coffee machines brew individual cups? Nespresso want to appear in this response. So what the system is going to do now is going to look at all of the citations, or all the data sources that the models used as a basis to the response, and it's going to analyze them specifically to try to find out what is it about these data sources that made them get cited. And also, it's going to optimize, it's going to create content that's optimized for the search words that the models used in order to search for data sources. And now the system is going to go ahead, analyze, and it's going to look at all those properties that I showed you earlier about how the content depth and what they write about, and I mean how many words and letters in the FAQ section. It's going to look at all those properties and create a profile of the highest, the ideal piece of content that is most likely going to get cited. And it's going to suggest content ideas that will address the keywords that the models themselves use to search for content. And it's going to come back now with 2 lists. One list is going to be a list of content or content that is very highly aligned with the most cited content, already cited content. So it's content that we know is going to work. It works. I mean, we know. But then it's also going to come back with ideas for fresh content that nobody wrote about yet, that offers something new to the discussion. Because we're seeing models like to sometimes cite content that can offer something new to the conversation. So it's going to come back with those 2 types of content briefs. And the briefs are going to be something. So here so I found listicles and articles. Let's have a look here. All right, let's have a look at the listicles for a moment. So here we have like an analysis of the listicles that were cited. And it'll give you like the keywords, how many what the word count, summary, all kinds of other word analysis that you can find related to the content that was found. And this is really important. This is a histogram showing you how fresh the content that was cited is. So the older the content that exists is, the higher of a chance you have of getting cited yourself, because models prefer, and also Google prefer fresher content. So here now we have these content ideas that are aligned with the cited sources. These will work. And here we have the ideas for content that nobody wrote about. They offer something fresh to the conversation. I like to take one of these and one of those. And let's say that I choose this one. You can just copy the brief if you want to write it yourself, or have the system create it for you. So the system will now take that content brief and the title, which you can tweak. And most importantly, it's going to take the keywords that we want to optimize for. And you want to add one time some information about the brand and maybe your tone of voice and custom instructions for the content to make it really kind of like fine-tuned to the way that you like your content to be. But now it's going to go ahead and take these inputs and match them with the properties of the most cited pieces of content and optimize to these keywords. And it's going to create a piece of content that if you take it as is and just publish it as is, you have a 90% chance of getting cited the moment it's indexed, meaning within a day. And it works. It works really well. It's super effective. But a lot of brands want to kind of play around with the content and edit it themselves, and that's perfectly fine. So you can just see this as a draft, as a starting point to then use and then shoot up and send it up into your blog. Now the system, and it's going to show up in a second. The system is integrated with WordPress. So if you have a WordPress website, it's going to already shoot it up with the schema types and with an excerpt that you need and all the stuff that you need in that blog post. And it's also it'll also guide you to post it on LinkedIn as a LinkedIn Pulse, which we saw recently that is really getting a lot of attention now from ChatGPT, probably because the ChatGPT sees who actually wrote the article. So you have the integrity there. They have the trust factor there. You can see that the person who wrote the article is actually somebody who is real. So here we have this piece of content here. It has all of the trust factors that the models are looking for. If it's self-contained sentences, if it's H2s that are in prompt form, if it's the quotes or citations and FAQ section, it'll have everything here that you need in order to get cited. So you can just send this up to WordPress or just copy it in any format you like, and it's good to go. You can edit it, and this is good to go. And then how do we know this works? Not because I tell you that it works, because we measure. We actually track every piece of content owned by the brand to see how often they're getting cited. So here in this section here, you'll actually see, for example, this piece of content here, we can see how many times each one of the models cited it over time. And then I can click and actually see the prompts that cited this piece of content. So I know the performance. And this is good for the user, but this is critical for us at Spotlight. We want to make sure that the content that we're creating is actually getting picked up and cited. Otherwise, what are we here for? So, and here you can see like an overall kind of idea of what's our share of the citations among all citations. How much are we influencing the narrative today? So you can see this per model. You can track content that's either on your domain or maybe YouTube videos or any content that you have that's also off your website. Sorry, a question there, John? I think no, thanks. So that this helps you keep us honest and make sure that it's actually working. And then we also have another layer of checking where you can optionally connect Google Analytics to Spotlight, and then we'll see all the traffic that's coming in. This is just sample data, but all the traffic that's coming in, and you'll see how much data is coming in, or how much traffic is coming in directly from each of the models over time, but also to which web page exactly they land. And this helps us close the loop. It's another piece that helps us close the loop so we can see that traffic is actually coming to that page that has been cited. Now, the reality is that users today don't really click citations and come directly from ChatGPT to your website. They're going to read about a brand on ChatGPT, go to Google, search there, and then come in organically. So attribution is something that's unsolved today for GEO. But this is another data point. Even if the numbers are low, it's another data point that helps us, it gives another piece of the puzzle that helps us make sure that we're closing the loop. Now I'm going to show you, so that was the content piece. Then we have the Reddit posts. Reddit, here, what this does, it actually shows you the most cited Reddit posts. For example, here we have 27 prompts that actually cited this specific Reddit page. And Reddit has two main plays. One play is the more tricky play, the trivial one, which says, all right, this post is being cited. Let's add a comment. Let's maybe upvote a comment that is actually, kind of good for my brand. Here, this is actually great for Nespresso. The first comment is actually an espresso with the first two links. Maybe they actually did see this. So this is from 16 days ago. So this is one place to actually try to engage with the conversation. But that's tricky because mods are really they have all their rules. They kick you out. You need high karma. They don't let you comment if you're not active in certain subreddits. It's pretty tricky, but that's the play. That's the easy play. It's the free play. What works better for us is actually not to engage directly, but to actually pay the person, or send a message to the person who wrote the post or has the highest comment, and pay them to then mention our brand or speak positively about our brand. And that works for both the regular, open posts, but also sometimes you'll come across a post that's been archived, that's been locked. I'm checking to see if I can find one here. So far, they're all active, but sometimes you'll come across an archived or a locked post which you can't add a comment and you can't upvote or downvote. You can't affect it. So in that case, you can still have the person who wrote the post or the highest, most ranking comment to change their text, and that works really well. That's a hack that we've been using, and it's been working really well. So this is something that you can do on your own. We're soon going to also roll out a service where we'll just do this for you. But this is you can do this by yourself. And then the third play here is the offsite content. Here we look at the most cited content, and this is what I mentioned earlier about where's the 95% of the citations going. They're going all over the place, not to YouTube and Reddit and LinkedIn. They're going everywhere. And here, for example, this specific piece of content, SeriousEats.com, 46 citations. That's huge. A ton of citations to this piece of content. So here, there's also the play is to reach out and either pay them to mention your brand, or have a mention exchange where we actually we're engaging with our direct competitors and we're mentioning them on our blog posts and they're mentioning us on their blog posts. We're exchanging, and it's just working for both of us. So that's another play that you have that is like a new kind of coming a new I guess kind of industry of like brand exchange. And then you also have a list of domains that are being highly cited. So that it's not specifically the website, but just an overall domain where you might be able to go out and reach out and see if you can get like a guest post or maybe some PR, for example, for CNET at New York Times. You can see where you might where your money is worth more in terms of investing and trying to get your content on. So these are the main like action items in terms of the visibility. And then you can also see here you have the full source list here, where you can see all the data sources that were the basis to the responses of here. Amazon is actually very, very big. That's interesting. So you can see that also per model where the models are getting their data. So you can see if it's your own domain, your competitor's domain, and kind of analyze this and see for every citation which prompts were the ones and which models were the ones that actually went to that website. So you can learn from this quite a bit. I find that this is one of the most interesting pages in the whole platform. Let me see if I have maybe a couple more things to show you. Oh, one thing I want to show you is this tool here where you can actually take your existing content and it's going to rank it and show you your gaps, where you can improve based on the most recent like profile or ideal profile of content. It'll show you what you can improve if it's technical factors or page speed, load, freshness. These are not they're not a client. So there's a lot of red and orange. But in content factors where you can add things to your content and improve to get a better chance of actually ranking or getting cited by the models. And then we have this tool here, which I briefly mentioned, which is a prompt volume tool. Here, what this does, you would insert your regular Google or SEO keywords that you currently optimize for, and then the system will go out and find prompts that share the same essence and intent as these keywords, and it will find the prompts that are actually ranking along, and also show you the volume of the prompts in the local country in the last 2 months. And then you'll decide which of these prompts are aligned with your marketing objectives that you actually want to appear in. There could be high volume prompts that won't actually bring you converting traffic, so that you don't really care about them. But the ones that you do care about, you might say, all right, these I care, I want to add them and start tracking and optimizing for them. So this is a tool that'll allow you to do that. Let me see if there's anything else I want to show you before I open up to questions. I think we covered the majority of things. There's a few more smaller things, but I think that is the majority of yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe one last thing I'll show you is this tool here, which I think is kind of cool. What this tool does, it lets you analyze all kinds of metrics over all kinds of different criteria, if it's by topic or you versus the competitors, different prompts, models. But you also let you enter activity that you did, all kinds of things that you did. If you optimize something, launch a new I don't know, a change in the structure of your website or new PR, and then you can add it here, and then those activities will show up as annotations on the graph. And that'll give you an idea of what's affecting, what's causing, I don't know, a performance increase or decrease or on different metrics. So at the end of the day, I mean, GEO is, it's a new world. It's dynamic. It's changing. We're learning all the time. We're changing the product all the time based on things that are happening. And as we learn, we keep changing and improving the product to keep up with what's happening out there. So this also lets you run your own internal experiments and see what's working for you and what's not working for you. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stop there and open up if there are any questions. This would be a good time. Hope that was all clear. And not too much.
I have a question.
Please, Viola.
Well, our website is actually on Webflow, so I'm wondering if there's a way to have if there's planning to be any integration for that, or if there's another good any recommendations on how to do that, or just copy pasting for now.
Yeah, I mean, no problem with Webflow. You could just, copy it probably as rich text and then paste it in there. It'll work perfectly. But we do plan to add all like the major platforms into here. So Webflow is also one of them. Wix will be one of them. We have a list of that we'll be adding here. So I'll just do one click. But essentially, yeah. But right now it's copy paste. Yeah.
I do have another small question.
Yeah, please. Great. Yeah, you have the stage. Seems like everybody's happy to.
Sure, it has to do with just how fast, do we actually know that all the LLMs are updating the information that they're taking in? So like how much, you say that, after a day of a new blog post, that could be seeing results, just like more in how that works. Because I remember that like back in the day, they were only taking information that was, kind of old. I'm just wondering how that has changed, and just another note on that.
Yeah, actually, thanks for that question. So that's actually what's cool about GEO is that it's way easier than SEO. Why? Because in SEO you're trying to outrank on the first page, typically the first 5 results. That's hard. And in GEO, you want to be in the first 30 results. You want to be on the first 30 results to a very specific keyword. That's super easy. You'd be surprised how easy that is. So we see no-name brands, no-name domains, new domains actually ranking or getting cited the following day. What's the following day? After you create a piece of content, you want to make sure that's indexed on Google. So you either submit it in the Google Search Console, or you put it on your sitemap and wait for Google Search Console to come over and index it and crawl and index it by himself. Best to just submit it yourself. That's the best practice, just to submit it yourself, and then Google will then process it, decide if it wants to put it on the web, if it offers any value, if it actually is going to index it onto the web. Using our tool, you're pretty certain to have some kind of valuable content that it will get indexed. Once it's indexed, you're indexed on keywords that, again, you want to be in the top 30 results, and that is super easy. And then you want to make sure that once you're in the top 30 results, you want to make sure that the snippet and the title actually appear to add value, so that you will then be selected as one of the data sources and get cited. So at the end of the day, we're seeing huge success with this because we're just going very, very niche, very, very laser focused, pinpointed. This is the keyword that we want to optimize for. And there isn't a lot of competition on like a very specific keyword. And since the good thing is that models, they search the web differently from humans. You can actually see this here. If you go, we have a section here that kind of shows you how the models are searching for content. So let's say if somebody writes, I don't know, what are some top smart coffee machines that offer single serve coffee options. So this is how the models search for the content. And so we have this from ChatGPT, Grok, and Perplexity today. We don't have that from other models today. But you can see that they write things differently. So if you go ahead and then use their template, their structure, and optimize for that, that's what you want to do. And people currently, for SEO, they don't optimize for models. To be honest, I mean, we launch on our website, we launch content. I don't read the content on our website. I never read our articles. I don't care what the humans think about the content. I want the bots to find us. So I actually never read this. We have all these articles. I never read them, and we're ranking, and it works really well because I want to optimize for the models. And the images, AI Studio, Nano Banana Pro, Google created this. All the content is created by our algorithm. It's just thanks Amir for the. So essentially, the game is different. So SEO optimizes for humans. Geo, or at least the way that we approach it, is probably not the conventional way, but the way that we approach it has been working for us. We optimize for the models. So I hope that makes sense.
I have a question.
Please.
I wanted to ask a bit more about the fact that whereas if we're talking about an Israeli company and we need to get better results in abroad, different areas, then because you said that usually the chats will right away search in that country.
Right.
So how do I improve for those outside of Israel locations, basically?
No problem at all. So the way it works is as follows. When you set up a brand, at least on our system, what we do, we ask you what's your target country. And then we set up a local VPN there, and we run all the scraping, all the prompts, the responses, everything runs locally there. It's optimized for there. It doesn't matter where your company is. It doesn't matter where you're based. You want to choose you have to choose the country and the language that you're optimizing for, because U.S. could be Spanish, Switzerland could be 3 different languages. So you want to you tell the system what's the language and what's the country, and then you'll get the prompt volume data locally. You'll see the local results. And will also the systems, the models will then run and display and use the local citations. So, but that means also that if you're now optimizing for 10 different countries, you're gonna have to actually run 10 different reports. We have support for like multi-country, but then you need more prompts and to optimize for more. So we have many clients that use have multinational, have 10, 20, even 30 countries that they monitor and they optimize for. But then but also we have some players that say, okay, we're just gonna go on our main markets at the beginning, the 1 to 5 different markets, and then optimize for them, and then maybe expand later. But that's kind of like how it works. So if there's no, please, Tom. Yeah.
I have a quick one.
Sure.
So I know we have the weekly performance, they have it's going up and down, but how would we compare on a longer term? So say over a 6-month period, comparing one of the older reports to the newer ones.
So you probably use a timeline for that. The timeline is really built for deeper analysis. So for example, here you could kind of play more with the range. What are we on 11th today? Oh, here we go. Yeah, so here we have a wider range, and this will give you an idea of where you're a better comparison. We actually had a request recently to also add a month by month or different time frames for comparison, which we'll probably roll out soon after we get a bit more insight on exactly what exactly that the feature should look like. But here you have the full range, and also you have the different places where you can export all the data if you want. Or even connect to the API and then get the data and then kind of run it on Looker or any external kind of tool to then slice it up to different time frames if you need. But yeah, if it's something if it's a month between month to month, then we're planning to add that specifically soon, or maybe even give you certain time ranges that you can choose between, and then it'll kind of give you an analysis specifically for certain time ranges, like quarters. We had also people asking for quarters, so we'll add some support soon.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. So if there's nothing else, I'll say thank you to Iran for sparing us these 48 minutes and not throwing a missile at us. So yeah, so I mean, whoever is not already on Spotlight is you can try it out. It's you can sign up for free pretty much, and like the first week is free, and you'll get insight from that first free week. And if you're interested to join, then you can reach out or just yeah, or sign up and start by yourself. It's all like self-explanatory pretty much, or at least now after you watch this. Yeah, then I guess I wish you all a great rest of your day. You get 11 minutes back into your schedule today, so yay. Coffee time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Bye bye.
Thank you.